Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. This is episode 9 of season 2, in which I choose my top 5 favorite cards of a particular player. At the end of last week's video, I spun the wheel of names and it landed on Gil Hodges. Now, I have to admit, I did not know much about Gil Hodges, so I looked him up and I want to go over some of his career highlights, both as a player and a manager. Hodges was signed by the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1943. That year, Hodges appeared in one game as a third baseman before he enlisted in the Marines for service in World War II. After serving 29 months in the Pacific, Hodges was discharged and reported to the Dodgers at a new position, catcher. But with future Hall of Famer Roy Campanella on the horizon, Dodgers manager Leo DeRocher moved the athletic Hodges to first base. By 1949, Hodges was entrenched there after hitting 23 home runs and driving in 115 runs en route to the first of 8 All-Star Game selections. Defensively, Hodges' huge hands made his transition to first base seem seamless. From 1949 to 1957, Hodges averaged 32 home runs and 108 RBIs per season. During those seasons, the Dodgers won 5 National League pennants and the 1955 World Series title. His peak as a power hitter came on August 31st, 1950, when Hodges became just the second modern-era National League player to hit 4 home runs in one game. Hodges moved with the Dodgers to Los Angeles in 1958, and in 1959, he hit 25 home runs and drove in 80 runs in just 124 games to help LA win its first National League pennant. Hodges hit .391 in the World Series against the White Sox, leading the Dodgers to their second Fall Classic title in 5 years. Hodges wound down his playing career as a part-timer with the Dodgers in 1960 and 1961, and the Mets from 1962 to 1963. In the later year, the Senators tabbed Hodges as their manager, and he stayed with Washington through the 1967 season. Next year, Hodges took over the Mets, who had never won more than 66 games in a season. By 1969, the Miracle Mets were world champions. Hodges managed the Mets through the 1971 season, but was felled by a heart attack on April 2, 1972, as he left a Florida golf course following a round of 27 holes. Hodges, who had first suffered a heart attack in 1968, died 2 days short of his 48th birthday. As a player, Hodges finished with 370 homers, 1,274 RBIs, and a .273 batting average. He retired with the third most home runs of any right-handed hitter, trailing only Jimmy Fox and Willie Mays. He finished in the top 20 of the National League Most Valuable Player voting 8 times and won 3 Gold Glove awards at first base, despite the fact that the award was not created until 1957. And Gil Hodges was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2022. As a manager, Hodges was 660 and 753 in 9 seasons, including 100 regular season wins and the World Series title with the 1969 Mets. All right, so to narrow down the selections I had to choose my top 5 favorite cards for Gil Hodges, I went with the PSA Basic Set Registry Checklist. It's 19 cards from his playing days, and it includes his 1949 through 1955 Bowman cards, his 1951, 52, 54, and 55 through 1963 Topps cards. Now, here's where I would love all of you to participate as well. In the description of this video, I'll have a link to the PSA basic set registry checklist for Gil Hodges. And from those 19 cards, would love to know in the comments which are your top 5 favorite cards of his. And beyond those 19 cards, if there are some other cards that you really like of his, feel free to put them in the comments as well, and I'll have them as honorable mentions in next week's video. And for your top 5 favorite cards, if you could number them 1 through 5 or 5 through 1, it'll help me compile the results for next week's video. Now, before I get to my top 5 favorite Gil Hodges cards, last week's player was Richie Ashburn, and there were a couple of you who put in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. So I'm going to start off by going over the results of all of your comments from last week's video and compare your top 5 to my top 5 Richie Ashburn cards. Then I'll get into my top 5 favorite Gil Hodges cards. Normally, I would then turn the camera around and show off the cards that I have of him in my collection, but currently I do not have any Gil Hodges cards. So after I go over my top 10, we'll go over to the Wheel of Names, give it a spin, and see which player will be selected for next week's video. So let's get started. For Richie Ashburn, you had 19 cards to choose from to select your top 5 favorite. And they include his 1949 through 1955 Bowman cards, his 1954 Red Heart, and his 1951, 52, 54, and 1956 through 1963 Topps cards. Now, there were 5 of you who put in the comments letting me know which were your top 5 favorite cards of his. I truly appreciate those who put comments on these videos letting me know which were your top 5 favorite. It's always interesting to see different people's opinions on their top 5 favorite and how it compares with my top 5. All right, here are the top cards that were selected from those 5 comments. Leading the way was his 1957 Topps card with 4 selections, then his 1956 Topps card with 3 selections. Then we had a 5-way tie for third with 2 selections each, his 1951 Bowman, his 1953 Bowman, his 1954 Topps, 1955 Bowman, and 1958 Topps cards. Now, there were some for his 19 card run that didn't get any selections, his 1949 and 54 Bowman cards, the 1954 Red Heart, and the 1951, 60, 61, 62, and 66 Topps cards. All right, there were 2 honorable mentions of cards not on that 19 card list. First, we have his 1988 Pacific Legends card, and then a custom card by When Topps Had Balls in the 1963 Flair design, showing him with the New York Mets. So how did your top 5 rank with my top 5 cards for Richie Ashburn? Well, at number 5, you ranked his 1951 Bowman card. I actually had that as my favorite Richie Ashburn card. At number 4, you had his 1956 Topps card, which I had as my 3rd favorite. In 3rd place, you had his 1955 Bowman card, which I did not have in my top 5. At number 2, you had his 1954 Topps card, which I didn't have in my top 5, but was probably number 6 or 7. It was close to including that one in my top 5. And at number 1, you had his 1953 Bowman card, which I had as my 2nd favorite. All right, on to Gil Hodges. Again, I have, and you have in the comments, 19 cards to choose from. His 1949 through 55 Bowman cards, his 51, 52, 54, and 55 through 1963 Topps cards. All right, at number 5, I went with his 1957 Topps card. Love that image of Gil Hodges Stadium in the background. I'm a big fan of the 57 Topps set, as that was Topps' first year using color photographs of the players. Simple, basic design where you can appreciate the image of the player and not get distracted with the design of the card. Basic text down at the bottom. And again, just love that follow-through swing there of Gil Hodges. At number 4, I went with his 1955 Topps card. It was a choice between his 55 and his 56. Sometimes those 2 years, the cards of those players are very similar. Typically, they have that same large portrait image for the player. So it's a matter of the background or the secondary player. In this case, I gave the 1955 Topps card a little bit of an edge over 56. I sort of like the action shot in the background of the 56, but loved that color swinging follow-through image of Gil Hodges there in the background, and the yellow going from a dark yellow on the left, fading into sort of a cream color on the right, and the Dodgers logo in the top right there. I just gave the nod to the 1955 Topps card over 56. At number 3, I wanted this 1952 Bowman card. Love the background there. It's an empty stadium, but still love stadium images in the background. And just sort of like a serious pose there, it seems, of Gil Hodges. But you can sort of see the strength in his hands as a great first baseman there. And just love the overall look of the 1952 Bowman set and this particular Gil Hodges card. At number 2, I went with his 1951 Bowman card. Now, his 1950 Bowman card is the same image, but it's a little further away, I guess. And I actually like the little bit more close-up image of Gil Hodges in the 51 Bowman set as opposed to 1950 Bowman. I'm a big fan of the 1950 Bowman set. But there was just something about the 51 Bowman that I like the closer image, the cropped image there in the 51 Bowman set. And of course, you have his nameplate down there at the bottom. And at number 1, I had to go with his 1953 Bowman color card. That great image there of him at first base. The stadium in the background, the Schaefer, I think it was Schaefer beer, I believe, in the background above the scoreboard. You can see some other advertisements there on the outfield wall. Just a great image of 1950s stadium, and of course that great sort of action image there. It maybe looked a little posed, but still it's of him at first base. I think it's just a classic image of Gil Hodges, and so I had to go with his 1953 Bowman card as my favorite. All right, again, since I don't have any Gil Hodges cards in my collection to show off, let's get to the Wheel of Names and see which player will be chosen for next week's video. As you see, there are 31 names left on the Wheel of Names for Season 2, so let's give it a spin and see which player gets selected. So next week's video is going to be on Minnie Minoso. All right, great player. Again, another player. There are a few on this list that I currently don't have any cards in my collection, but it is going to be fun going through all the Minnie Minoso playing days cards and choosing my top 5 favorites. So should be another good video next week. And a final reminder in the comments, would love to know which are your top 5 favorite Gil Hodges cards. And with that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.